Hey guys, what's going on? Vega here from Serpent X Special Forces, and today I just wanted to talk to you about the gaming performance of the GTX 1660 Ti, specifically the MSI Ventus. I believe it's called the Ventus XS OC 6 gig, something like that. As you can see, it's got a pretty good fans, what we're used to from MSI, copper heat pipes, pretty stout cooler, and even a backplate. Most of the other cards that I saw didn't even come with a backplate, so that is a nice touch. Got the silver and black aesthetic, so it, matches most builds, kind of moving away from the red, which is nice for MSI to do. It's powered by a 8-pin power connector, and comes with 3 display and 1 HDMI, of course, which is pretty much standard for these times. But spec-wise, it's running on the new TU 116 Turing architecture. The die is measuring around like 284 millimeters, something like that. And it comes with GDDR6 micron memory is what my model specifically came with. The memory bandwidth is around 288 gigabytes with a slight memory overclock. You can push 300, 320, somewhere in there. Supports DirectX 12. OpenGL, all the good stuff that we're familiar with, especially with our games. And just to read off a couple of my notes here, the stock clocks is 1500 megahertz, boost clock is 1770, but you can easily surpass that. Memory effective speed is about 6 gigahertz, and it's a tiny card. So it's a reference PCB. I'm sure MSI did some touches and everything on it to optimize it to their liking. No RGB. If you want the RGB, you're gonna have to step up to the MSI Gaming Edition, but that's around like $330. This card was around $279, $280. It's a TDP of 120 watts, and with my overclocking, let me read you a couple things here. So again, stock around 1750 was what I saw, which is actually a boost clock. Not the base clock, but it was boosting up. Boost 3.0, GPU boost 3.0 was 1890, somewhere in there. This is just stock settings, right? So not touching anything. Average GPU clock was 1872. Memory not 16, but 6,000 megahertz or 6 gigahertz. And average temp was around 68, 70, somewhere in there. Depends on your case and airflow, obviously. Fan RPM wise, it was around 2040, and the fans do not have zero capability. It doesn't just stop or stop at any point in time, even if it's at idle. The fans are continually spinning, so keep that in mind. And you can set an aggressive fan curve to get improved performance. But when I did a manual overclock, plus 120 on the core, plus 1000 on the memory, because the memory you can overclock. It's just like, I know this is controversy between whether it's a 10 series or 20 series. Memory clocking wise, it performs like a 20 series, because the 2080 and other cards, you can raise that memory slider as far as you want, and sometimes get away with it. And each game runs differently, so you have to fine tune the memory. But with a manual overclock of plus 120 on the core, plus 1000 on the memory, I was able to hit 1965 megahertz. That was the average, peaking around 2010, 2020. But anything past 2020, the card would crash. It didn't really like that too much. It does stay relatively cool, so it's not a thermal issue. I think it's more of a power issue, because the power slider is a placebo slider as always. You really can't do much for it. I was pulling about 120 watts from the wall. I did measure from the wall just for this card to run. Memory clock, I got it up to 7.2 gigahertz or 7200 megahertz. But overclocking gaming, the average that I found was plus 100 on the core and plus 800 on the memory. That's pretty solid throughout most AAA titles. Again, each title is different, so tune at your own discretion. When I was doing all my testing, which I'll be showing you some information here towards the end of this video, leaving everything at stock, did perform quite well, showing 1070-like performance in most AAA titles, either equivalent to or above, depending on which one. With driver optimizations, the 1660 Ti should perform a little bit better. So I did experience some crashing, not only on the mining side with this card, but on the gaming side as well. So improvements are yet to come, but basically you can expect this card to run at a 1070 level for 280 bucks. That's lower than what the 1070 launched at MSRP, but that was over 2 years ago. So basically you got to weigh out the pros and cons. You know, paying 280 bucks for 1070 level performance, or do you go up to the RTX 2060? That's up to you. As far as overclocking, I'm just going to give you percentages. So when I overclocked compared to stock in gaming and retesting my games, I saw anywhere from a 5 to 12% difference or increase in performance. Not only in the game performance, but a little bit of stability, being able to up the texture qualities. You will not be able to run this card or most games at 4K, unfortunately. You can, but it's going to be choppy, you know, around 30 to 40 frames. If you tune the quality down, then maybe you could get 50, 60. But honestly, 1440p is where it's at, and 1080p is obviously where this card performs the strongest. So I'm going to leave you with some information, some slides that I did, games that I tested, and slides of data for those games. And I'm just going to leave you with that. This card performs very well. I'm actually impressed with it. This backplate's actually pretty nice. It is plastic, unfortunately. The shroud is also plastic. Fans are plastic. But the copper heat pipes that you can see in there, and the cooler or core design the heatsink design is actually pretty good. So it keeps the card nice and cool. You won't have to worry about that. An aggressive fan curve and a mild overclock will increase the performance of this card even further. So without further ado, I'm going to show you some information. I'm just going to let you go from here and exit out on those slides. So thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and comment, and all that good jazz. And if you are a miner or interested in the mining performance because you game and then mine when you're not using your system, I did do a video and I have a data dump over on Reddit. I will have that linked in the description. Thanks for watching.